Hello. So I thought I'd hop on here and explain what the crazy lady is doing hanging blankets over her windows. So if you saw my last video, then you know that we are in the midst of a winter storm. If you really want to call it that, we're not getting much of anything here beyond cold temperatures, which is kind of disappointing because initially we were supposed to get 4 to 8 inches of snow throughout tomorrow during the day and then overnight. And then, of course, they took that out of the forecast, and now we're just supposed to get snow tomorrow night, and it's only going to be around an inch. I'll be surprised if we even get that because they just tend to miss the mark on that for us all the time. But what we are going to get are frigid cold temperatures, and that kind of starts tonight. Today, the temperature was pretty normal. It was around 30, 32 degrees. But tonight, the bottom is going to drop out of it, and it's going to get down to 4. And we do get some pretty good, like, cold spells every year, I think, at least one, and it'll last just a few days. But this is the coldest that it's been in a while. I know the last couple of years we've gotten an actual ice storm, like we would get freezing rain and sleet and stuff, but it didn't get that cold. I mean, it might get into the teens and low double digits, but 4 degrees is the coldest we've had in a long time that I can remember. So, and tonight is not the only night that we're going to have this. Tonight is just kind of the start of it, but for the next, I believe, so tonight is Saturday, then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are all going to be single digit lows, and then it's going to warm up slightly to where we have lows in, the 10 to 15 area, but the highs are still only going to be in the 20s. So it's really going to be the following week, Monday, before we get back to normal. So with that many days in a row of these frigid cold temperatures, it doesn't take much for the electric bill to double from the furnace just running constantly to keep up. So what I do when we get these cold snaps is I always cover up the windows, like the living room window, especially because I can't pull the curtain shut. I have curtain lights hanging and they are attached to the curtain rod at the top, so I can't slide the curtains closed. So I hung my heavier quilt over that. And then I put another blanket. I pulled the curtains closed in the dining room and threw another blanket over that. The kitchen, I just like stapled a smaller blanket over that window. And then that's the only ones I actually covered. The other ones, like my bedroom and Logan's room, have really heavy duty curtains, like the blackout curtains that are lined that you can pull shut. And those work really great. And then the office has some fairly heavy curtains too. And I also still have the blinds hanging in the office window. But overnight, I'm just going to pull that door shut because the thermostat is right across the hall from my office door. And so I'm going to turn the heat down. Usually I have it set on 70, so I'm just going to go ahead and drop it to 65. And then I have an electric blanket that I always use in here just because I'm always cold. If it's below like 75 degrees, I'm cold. And then Logan and Hunter both have like those little oil heaters, the ones that look like little radiators in their rooms, and they're pretty energy efficient. They don't use a whole lot. And then I have one too that's normally in my office, but of course tomorrow's Sunday and then Monday's a holiday, so I'm going to be off for that. So I will probably just keep that heater in my bedroom to kind of keep it warmer overnight. And we're just basically going to hunker down. I'm picking up my groceries first thing in the morning, as I usually do on Sundays, and we'll have everything we need to be, I don't even want to say snowed in, because we're not really going to be snowed in, just frozen in really for a few days. So, and I even got some stuff to bake some vegan chocolate chip cookies. So it should be fun and also miserable all at the same time, but we will get through it. And for tonight, I am settling in under my electric blanket and watching The Holiday, which is finally on Netflix. And I feel like that is just never on any of the American networks during Christmas time. So now that it's on there, I'm going to take my chance to watch it. And I will be back here in the morning.
What a good baby.
Good girl, Miss Emily. That's a good baby. Hi, an official good morning from the car for the second time. It is going on 9 o'clock, and Michael actually wanted to get out of the house and get coffee, even though it's freezing. So I'm on my way to grab him, and then we're going to go to our usual coffee shop, the same place that was in the last video that I had Emily with me. I do not have her this morning. It's just too cold to get the kitty cat out. So I'm going to do that. And then after we are done with coffee, I need to run back to the store because yesterday when I realized that my kids were out of sandwich stuff, I had a video exporting, so I couldn't use my phone to add it to my order. And then by the time the video was done exporting, I forgot. So I need to run by the store and grab that stuff. But after that, I intend to stay in the house for probably like the next week, at least the next few days, I'm sure. But I do have a couple of things that I need to cook, and one I will probably do today, and that's going to be a black bean chili. And it isn't something that I have a recipe for. It is something I'm kind of just pulling out of my hat. I love black bean salsa, and so this is going to be similar in flavor to that, except it's going to be a hot chili instead of a cold salsa because obviously it's freezing outside. So I will share that, and since it's not a recipe and I don't really measure or anything, I'll just do the best I can to share what I'm doing. So if you do want to try to replicate it, you can. And then I don't know if it'll be today or if I'll do it tomorrow because it's a bank holiday, so I will be off work. But I'm going to make some vegan chocolate chip cookies. So, and I've never made those before. I found a recipe that has a lot of 5-star ratings. So I'm going to give it a try. And if it does turn out well, I will share that in the link in the description box. So be on the lookout for that if you're interested. And I will catch back up with you here shortly. My baby's being a snuggle bug. But you gotta get down because Mama's got to do some cooking. No, you can't get on there. That's onion. You don't like it. All right. Don't you even think about it. All right. So I'm going to get started on making the black bean chili. And I am kind of just making this up as I go. At least to some degree, I have my ingredients chosen, but that's about it. I have about a half of a red onion here that I had half in my little like noodle bowl container, and then the other half was just in my produce bin because I use it in salads and stuff. But I really need to use it up, so I'm going to do that rather than peeling a new one. And you probably can't see it. I don't know for sure if it's in the view, but I've got my phone set up here because I want to try to also make a reel as I do this. Reel/TikTok. I put it in both places, but anyway, so bear with me while I kind of finagle with that too as I'm going, but I'm going to go ahead and chop the onion and get it in the pot and get it sauteing, and then I'm going to move you so that you can see, because this is the only thing I need to like chop and prep. I might grab, I know I have a red bell pepper in the fridge that I may go ahead and chop actually and add to this as well, but everything else will be at the stove. So, Emily Jane, no ma'am. Down. I don't know why she thinks that there's something to see up on the counter. I have all the windows covered and she can't see out. And I think she's trying to get up here to see out the kitchen window, which is also covered. So I don't know what she thinks she's accomplishing. But in the midst of cooking, I guess we're going to fend off a cat. But anyway, let's get this thing started. Ugh. Almonds that are soaking because I also need to make almond milk. Go ahead and get this used up. Okay, so I'm going to get my other camera rolling here, and we're going to get to chopping. The last step is cilantro. I'm gonna give this a little chop and sprinkle that in, and then I'm gonna reserve some for after it's finished to sprinkle on top. But I do want some to cook in with it to get the flavor circulated. One thing I did not add to the pot is salt, and I don't intend to because I'm trying to cut back on my salt intake. And the new salt, In-N-U salt, I'll throw a little picture up here of what that looks like. But when it's done cooking and I'm ready to serve myself up a bowl, I will then sprinkle that on at the end. So it is a type of salt that has no sodium in it. So while it's cooking, I'm just not going to add salt. And even if you are a salt user, I still recommend waiting until you're ready to serve before you salt it, because when you salt it in the beginning, that salt cooks into it. And so the sodium content is there, but the more it cooks, the less salt flavor you taste by the time it's done. And so that's why, like, canned vegetables or canned soups that have salt in them, they have a ton of sodium, but they don't taste salty. So then you're adding more salt to make it taste better. So I definitely suggest waiting until you're ready to serve to add any salt, and then salt it to taste, because you will end up using less and therefore have less sodium. But I personally am using the new salt, which you do have to use a lot more of it to get a salty flavor than if you use actual salt, but there's no sodium. So for now, I'm liking that alternative. But I am planning to cut back, because my goal is to just get to the point where I don't need, like, I adjust my palate to where I no longer need that saltier taste. So anyway, let's get chopping.
What is that? Look at the snow. What'd you think of this? You ready to go back in now?
Good morning. So I'm going to work on making some vegan chocolate chip cookies. I'm using a recipe that I found. I think I found it online and saved it to Pinterest, but I have it on my Pinterest, but I've never tried it before. So if these turn out good, I will share it in the description box down below. I've got to open it back up. It closed on me. And this one, unfortunately, does not have the jump to recipe button, so I have to scroll and find it. So, oh, And then we've got to clear like 14 ads before we can actually see the screen. Okay, so it only makes, it says 11 to 14 cookies. So if you wanted to make a big batch, you could double it. I'm going to keep it as it is because I don't need a ton of cookies around here. I mean, there's just really no way to make a healthy cookie. They're going to have sugar, they're going to have fat. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. But anyway, I'm going to get started on this. It does need to chill for 2 hours. So once I get the dough made, I will have to take a break and then we'll come back to this later on to actually bake them. So similar to sugar cookies in that respect. And that's the first time I've ever seen chocolate chip cookies that need that. So I am curious to see how they'll turn out. I know with sugar cookies, sometimes you just got to get in there and work it with your hands. And I would think using an electric like hand mixer or even a stand mixer, it would probably come together a little bit better than using a fork, or in my case, I was using a rubber scraper to kind of help push it down, but it still feels very dry. So I'm going to add a little bit more, just like a half tablespoon. There, that feels a little bit better. So I did 2 tablespoons initially, then I added 1 and about probably 3/4 of another, and then another half. So between 4 and 5 tablespoons in total. But now I need to cover it and chill it. All right, into the fridge it goes. Alexa, set a timer for 2 hours. All right, and then when that's up, we'll come back here and put these on a tray and bake them at 325 for, it says, 11 minutes. Okay, just double checking my recipe before I get this started and make sure I get this right. So it does say to keep them in balls, which is not something that you would normally do with a chocolate chip cookie. So I'm glad I read that. And then bake for 11 minutes. And it does say that they won't look done when you take them out. So we will see how this goes. Well, my first thought, they definitely don't look done, but they're supposed to cool for 10 minutes before you can really judge, so we'll see. Okay, I'm going to let the pan cool for a few minutes before I put any more dough on it, and I am going to go ahead and pop this back in the fridge while I do that, just to make sure it stays good and chilled. All right, last batch going in. All right, so they definitely look very different from my typical chocolate chip cookie recipe. These are the ones that just came out of the oven. These are the ones that are cooled. They do look very moist, which is a plus. Let's see what they taste like. Not bad. I think it's good if you just think of it as a vegan cookie and don't try to compare it to a traditional chocolate chip cookie. Then again, chocolate chip are my favorite, so I might be a bit of a chocolate chip cookie snob, but the traditional ones that I always make are just kind of unbeatable. But if I want an egg-free, dairy-free alternative, I mean, these are pretty decent for that. So I will go ahead and share the recipe. Um, I mean, if I had to pick between these and a traditional chocolate chip cookie, I would definitely choose the traditional chocolate chip. But the more and more I try to get away from eggs and dairy, um, the more willing I am to try things like this. So overall, I would say that it's a win.